Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the professor. Today, I'm going to give you an update about Novatech, what's going on. There's been a lot of discussions on YouTube. Different YouTubers are talking about the class action lawsuit, the $2.3 billion class action lawsuit against Novatech, Cynthia Pétion, and her husband, and some of the promoters that have worked in making this a successful Ponzi scheme. So there are a couple of things I'm going to talk to you about today. I don't want to make the video too long because I know most people don't have the time. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to make it very short. But I'm going to dispel a few myths, a few things that I've heard on YouTube that people are saying. So I want you to listen carefully. The lawsuit that was filed by a law firm with lawyers that have decades of experience in litigating that kind of lawsuit. Now, I've heard people say that a lot of people are going to get sued. That's not true. That's not true at all. I have spoken to the lawyers. I've asked them questions. Like I said earlier before, the lead attorney in this case is going to be in the professor on Sunday, March 10, 2024 at 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you have not registered, if you haven't subscribed actually to my channel, you want to subscribe because this is his very first appearance on YouTube to talk about the lawsuit. So you don't want to miss this. You want to participate, you want to be part of it. But I'm going to make this available only to my subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you want to subscribe so that you don't miss this, this important interview. Now, let's talk about the would-be defendant. And I have read the lawsuit thoroughly. I'm very familiar with the complaint. I myself is a former attorney who actually litigated class action lawsuit when I practiced law in New York. So I'm very familiar with that type of action. Now, the lawyers are not going after people who were simply so-called investors, because when I said investors, this wasn't an investment because there was no investment, actually. There was no money invested anywhere. So they're not going after people who just thought that they were investing money. The people that they're going after are the promoters, the distributors, people who have gone from one Ponzi scheme to another. Let me give you an example. There is a group of people out there which are named in the lawsuit, and I understand that there will be an amended lawsuit that would come soon, and they will name more people. These people are what I call serial promoters of Ponzi scheme. What do I mean by that? Those are people, they go from one Ponzi scheme that fails to another Ponzi scheme. And my investigation revealed that the same group of people are the exact same individual who goes around the world, go from one Ponzi scheme to another. That's how they make their money. So those are the people that the lawyers are after, not you who just happen to tell your friend or your family member about Novatech, and because you thought it was a good investment and you invested, and now you bought your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friend, and they too invested. They're not coming after you. You have nothing to do with it. They're not coming after you. They're coming after people who have spent the last 10 years, 10 years, going from one Ponzi scheme to another. Let me give you an example. Somebody like Cynthia Pétion, Eddie Pétion, and all of her friends, they have started AWS, and a lot of you know AWS. And AWS was a Ponzi scheme that failed. The only people who made money were the promoters of AWS and Eddie Pétion, Cynthia Pétion, and the people that was in the inner circle of these people. They made a lot of money, okay? But the people who put money in, the investor, didn't make any money. Now, once AWS fell, guess what happened? Cynthia Pétion, Eddie Pétion moved to Novatech. And there are a number of Ponzi scheme out there. If you call it crypto program, Omega Pro, there are tons of them. And if you analyze, if you've done research, you looked at the people, you would see it is the same people going from one Ponzi scheme to another Ponzi scheme. So here's the thing, guys. If you were involved in a Ponzi scheme and you knew it was a Ponzi scheme, why would you be involved in the same type of situation again? Unless this is what you do. So the lawsuit certainly is going to go after people who were promoting Novatech, who were distributors of Novatech, but who also has a history of going from one Ponzi to another. So if you were a distributor of Novatech, if you were a person who were part of Novatech, and was your first time, you've never invested in such a Ponzi scheme, you weren't part of a Ponzi scheme, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you were someone like Dunbar and some other guys who spend the last 10 years of their life going from one Ponzi scheme to another Ponzi scheme, well, the lawyers are coming for you. And it's not gonna be nice. It's going to be pretty nasty. They're gonna come to you and they're gonna take everything you have. So, and I think that the lawyers are right. I think that you get to a point where someone make a mistake once. We said, okay, it was a mistake. But when you start continually, consistently making the same mistake, it is no longer a mistake. Now it is a choice. Now you have intentionally decided to defraud other people. And I think that as far as the lawsuit is concerned, that's exactly what the lawyers are doing. And thanks God for them that somebody is putting a stop to that type of fraud, because as you remember, the lawsuit was filed on February 5th. The same day the lawsuit was filed, the very next day, Novatech took the website down. So obviously they've got something to hide. That is the reason they took the website down, because they know the lawyers have been investigating. They know they're coming for them, so they are running for the hills. Now, if you are a Novatech promoter, a serial promoter, then you got something to worry about. If you are someone who've gone from one Ponzi scheme to another Ponzi scheme, absolutely, I would say you should worry. You should probably try to get your attorney ready. You should lawyer up, because you're going to have a lot of problems. Now, if you were just somebody who invested your money because your brother-in-law told you that was a good deal, you have nothing to worry about. So this is the first myth, the first thing I want to put aside. The second thing I want to talk about is people asking whether or not they're going to get their money. They don't know whether this lawsuit is going to amount to anything. Let me explain something to you guys. Cynthia Pétion and Eddie Pétion, we know for a fact, I know for a fact, that there is a federal investigation. And based on what I find out, based on what I know, they will be indicted. And whether or not they are in Dubai, in Panama, wherever they are in the world, they will be caught. They will be caught. There's no doubt in my mind they will be caught. Whether they get caught tomorrow, the next day, they will be caught. Now, the lawyers estimated, based on the widespread nature of the Ponzi scheme of Novatech, that they could be between $2 to $2.5 billion invested in Novatech. Now, one thing, doing my investigation, I've talked to a lot of people, and Novatech did not take cash American money. What they had people do was to buy crypto, Bitcoin, to some platform like Newton in Canada or some other platform, and then transfer those Bitcoin to a Novatech account. That's how they did it. So technically, Novatech had an account somewhere, Bitcoin account somewhere, probably in Estonia. And this is where all your money are sitting in terms of Bitcoins. So it's a lot of money. I'm sure that Cynthia Pétion and Eddie Pétion are living large with your money, but they will be caught. Because if I was Cynthia Pétion and Eddie Pétion, what I would do if I were them, I would be to hire an attorney and have the attorney ready to defend me, because the longer they take, obviously the more guilty they seem to be, because we believe that I believe this was a Ponzi scheme. I believe that there was no investment at all. But if the patient believes, if they think that, yeah, there was investment, well, listen, I'd be too happy to see it, because in the blockchain, you cannot change it, you cannot make things up. If something happened, it's in the blockchain. Now, will you be able to recover your money? Yes, because once Eddie Pachon and Cynthia Pachon get arrested, they'll be looking at between 20 to 30 years in prison, probably more, because there was an attorney the other day who just got 50 years in prison for running a Ponzi scheme out of Texas, out of Dallas. So they could get a lot of time in prison. And when we look at the nature of the widespread of the Ponzi scheme, because this is what just in the United States, this was all over the world, because I've talked to people from Italy to Switzerland to Kenya to South Africa to Barcelona to Spain to Brazil. There are people all over the world who thought that Novatech was a real company, and they actually invested money in Novatech. And obviously, we all know now that Novatech wasn't real. We all know that for sure. So yes, you have a chance of recuperating your money. Now, think of it this way. There's been a lot of talk since last year, when Novatech stopped paying people, basically. Okay, they just wouldn't allow people to take their money back. And then they claim, oh yeah, we had a problem, blah, blah, blah. It was the website, it was this, it was that. But if you look at AWS, if you look at the crypto program, if you looked at any of these companies out there, this criminal enterprise that I call them, who claim to help you making money in crypto, they all always have the same issue. Once they're taking your money, it becomes a problem. They say, oh yeah, you know, it was a computer program. They didn't have the computer issue before they're taking your money. They didn't have the computer issue 6 months ago, a year ago. It's only now they have the computer program, because they realize that they have made enough money. They've taken all your money, and now they don't want to give you the money back, and they're not getting as many people to put in money. Okay? Because remember, what is a Ponzi scheme? A Ponzi scheme is you take money from John to pay Peter. And you told both John and Peter to bring other people. So John brings Peter, Peter invests money, you use Peter's money to pay John, and you ask John to bring somebody else. John brings Mervyn, and then you bring Mervyn money to pay John, and Mervyn brings Joe, you take Mervyn money to pay Joe. It's a Ponzi scheme. The problem with a Ponzi scheme, it is never going to last, because for it to last, you would have to continually getting more people and actually getting more money in. So as you know, you have to get more money in than the money that people are asking to take into account. That's the reason why any companies that is a Ponzi scheme, the nature of it, if you think of it, is they're going to discourage you to take any money out at all. Why? Because there is no investment. There is no ROI. There is no return on investment. There is no investment. They never invested your money. It was a multi-level marketing Ponzi scheme. That's what it was, period. Now, if you take out the money, then it becomes a problem. Then they don't have enough money to pay everybody else, and because they're not making enough money. So that's really what Novatech was, okay? That's the second thing. Now, the third thing that I want to talk about is I saw someone, a YouTuber, talking about the website that the lawyers set up for people to register. People are giving money to Novatech to register. Now, I have talked to the lawyers. I have looked at the website. I mean, you could see the website here. I've looked at the website. The website has two names on it. It has EminiFX and it has Novatech. Now, if you belong to Novatech, you click on Novatech and you fill out the form. Now, the form asks a number of questions: your name, your address, your telephone number, email address, and so on and so forth. Those are necessary information to be put on the list as someone who have invested in Novatech. Now, the application also asks if you belong to a church. If you belong to a church, yes, I belong to a church. and you put the name of the church and the address of the church. Now, the reason they're asking that, here's the reason, guys. I have spoken to the attorneys, and the reason they did this was because they have conducted an investigation, and they find out that there were churches and their pastors who actually were part of who participated in the Ponzi scheme. They were promoting Novatech to their church members, and pastors are not supposed to do that. Then that's not their job. Their job is not to promote Ponzi scheme inside the church. That's using their positions, their influence to then sell something that they knew was fraudulent. And that's the reason why they asked that. Now, if you belong to a church, it doesn't mean that it's a problem. No. The question is, was your pastor telling you to invest? If your pastor, I have spoken to people who said, yeah, I belong to a church, but my pastor never told me to invest. Okay, fine, then there's no problem. But if you say, well, I belong to a church, then my pastor was the one who introduced me to the church. And at that point, we want to look, the lawyers want to look at the church, they want to look at the pastors, they want to know to what extent the pastors were involved. For example, I have discovered that there's a church in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, called Crown One Ministry. Crown One Ministry. Now, it came to my attention that that particular church and the pastors were distributors for Novatech. The question that I have is, how many members in the church? How often did the pastor use his or her position to promote Novatech? And whether the pastors knew this was a Ponzi scheme. So it could be that the pastors really believe this was not a Ponzi scheme. It could be that the pastors think this was legit. And I'm not saying, he did or he didn't. I'm saying he could be. But that's something that would come with discovery, because the lawyer would have to find out, hey, how long the pastor has been doing that, how many times he participated in things like that, has he lost money, has he promoted other Ponzi scheme before, and so on and so forth. So you don't have to worry about that. The other question is, the fourth questions I want to address. Eddie Petion and Cynthia Petion have a lot of money at their disposal, okay? A lot of money. And there are people out there, despite the fact that Novatech is closed, the website is down, no one has heard from Cynthia Petion for the last almost a year and a half or two, or Eddie Petion for that matter. But there are still people who holding hope that Novatech is going to come back and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And I've experienced the same thing with MiniFX. I remember when I first started doing video, talking about MiniFX, a lot of people were upset with me. They were calling me all kind of names. They were very upset with me because they couldn't deal with the truth. I know it's hard when you believe in something, you truly believe in it, and find out that what you believe in was a total fraud. That could be hard for you to accept. I understand that. So I never got upset with people who were upset with me, because I knew what I was talking about. And eventually everything that I said was going to happen with MiniFX did happen in MiniFX. And now that I'm talking about Novatech, everything that I'm telling you now will eventually come to pass with Novatech. And this is based on my experience, many years of experience, over 15 years of experience. And I know what I'm talking about. So with Novatech, guys, it's not going to come in, it's not going to come back, just like AWS didn't come back. I think what may come back is another company by maybe another group of criminals or people who would just think you're stupid enough to give them more money, who would come back. For example, AWS was kind of the same company, and guess who was in charge of AWS? It was Cynthia Petion and Eddie Petion. Now they took the money and then they were happy with that. Then they moved to Novatech, created Novatech. So I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow they create something called FinTech or some other names, and then they hide it somewhere and allow other people to run it so they can make more money. That's how they live their life. That's how they make money. They don't make money any other way except to steal it from you. So don't think that Novatech would come back just under the name Novatech. Now, for the people who are online or on chat rooms and on WhatsApp saying that they think Novatech is going to come back, please don't waste your time with these people, because some of these people probably working for Cynthia and Eddie. I wouldn't waste my time with them. I wouldn't even listen to them, because what they are saying isn't true. Period. End of the story. Novatech isn't coming back. Now, with regard to where do we go from now? On Sunday, March 10 at 5 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to have Mr. Will Morris on this show. It's going to be live. We're going to have it on the professor. We're going to have him on the professor, and we're going to go over the Novatech lawsuit and go over who could be participant in the lawsuit and how that would unfold. There is a great judge who's assigned to the case, a former prosecutor who have prosecuted that type of Ponzi scheme and racketeering. So I think this case is in the hand of a very good judge. The question that I'm going to have so many questions for the lawyers. You do not want to miss this episode, this show with the professor. You really want to subscribe to my channel now. If you haven't subscribed, you've got to subscribe now, because this is how you're going to be able to ask questions. And I know that you have a lot of questions for people anywhere in the world. If you're from France or Italy or anywhere and you've lost money on Novatech, or you've invested money in Novatech, you want to hear from Attorney Morris, who's going to tell us his plan for this lawsuit, who's going to talk a little bit about the claim in the lawsuit and the people that he's going after. So it's going to be a great show. Don't forget Sunday, March 10 at 5 p.m. Now, as I promised, I wasn't going to make this video long. I just simply wanted to address some of the misleading things that people have been saying on YouTube, people have been saying online, on WhatsApp, and so on. So if you want to participate, if you want your name to be listed, go to the website. The website is right on the screen. Go to the website, click on Novatech, and then fill out the form. If you belong to a church, please put the name of the church, and also let them know whether your pastor invited you to be part of this. And if you belong to a church and your pastor is not involved and you didn't hear from it from a church, that's fine. Then you don't have to put that down. You just want to be honest in terms of what really happened. Now, the other thing that I'm almost forgot to talk about this, because I saw this somewhere, I think on WhatsApp. Now, when you sent money to Novatech, most of you, probably all of you, must have had a crypto wallet, okay? A crypto wallet is basically a way for you to transact business, online, sending crypto from point A to point B, from you to somebody else. That crypto wallet has an address, and the address is on the blockchain. So when the law firm was asking people to send that to them, I haven't discussed it with them, but I can imagine that if I was the lawyer doing the case, I would want to get my investigators to trace the wallet so that I could see where that money went. I'm sure also you probably have Novatech crypto wallet address where you would send the money. So they would know that to trace it on the blockchain to find out where the money is. So it's kind of an investigation technique. I'm not an investigator, but I know how investigators work, and I think that's probably the reason why they ask you. So the more information you can provide them, the better, obviously, because there is a lot of investigation going on with respect to Novatech, Senfia, Eddie Pecho, and the people who supported her in making Novatech a successful Ponzi scheme with billions of dollars lost in the last 3.5 to 4 years. So again, I thank you for watching this video. I hope that I have given you enough now for you to be able to make a decision how to move forward, that now you've gotten more information and now you are feeling better. As usual, I can be reached by email. My email is in the bottom. My phone number, people can call me and ask any questions. If I can provide an answer, I will do that. Don't forget to subscribe, because Sunday, March 10, 5 p.m., we're going to have attorney Will Morris, whose picture you see behind me, will be in our show direct from Miami to speak to you and all of the investors of Novatech. So thank you so much for watching The Professor. I will see you in another episode of The Professor. Please be safe. Thank you.